Hey you guys, it's Annie with Salttown Realty. This is third Thursday, so we're doing our live interview. Today we have Jackie Baggs on. She is an underwriter, and I have always wanted to talk to an underwriter. So let's invite her on here.
There we go.
Yay! So this is
Awesome.
Jackie Baggs. She has been kind enough to join us today. Anyone who knows anything about real estate knows that there are like lots of jobs within real estate. People usually think of lenders or title or real estate agents, but there are all these other jobs too, and an underwriter is one of them. And I thought about playing like Here Comes the Reaper or something, because I feel like people have this like spooky thing with underwriters. So I'm excited to talk to a real life human one, and a nice one at that. So why don't you give us a little bit of background on you? Like, how long have you been in this business? How did you get into it?
Love to, absolutely. But first, thank you for having me. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Certainly nice to get to be a part of this. So a little bit about me. I've been fortunate enough to be in the business since around 1998. I started from just answering phones. Actually, a couple of years prior to that, I was answering phones and stacking files to send them to the investor, and just got interested in the process, the manufacturing of the loan. So from there, I quickly became a processor. Then I processed and closed my own loans. And um, gosh, I was just so fortunate to work for a great company, Celtic Bank out of Salt Lake City, actually. And they had an underwriter that mentored me. And when she retired, I quickly obtained all of my delegations, and I was their head underwriter for quite a few years.
Okay.
So that's a
And
little background on me.
I love that. And why don't you describe to us what is underwriting?
Sure. So I think there's when someone thinks about an underwriter, they think of someone that just reviews the documentation and approves or declines a file, right? But there's actually many facets to underwriting. Obviously we need to know investor guidelines, and we need to know current trends, and recently we're all up against variable income, right? We're all running into that quite a bit. So just at least here at Guild, with a lot of our group, we go out and talk with loan officers and make sure that we're all looking at it from the same way. So that's actually what I'm doing right now. We'll be meeting with a group tomorrow. But what an underwriter will actually do is definitely analyze the risk, and then we also look out for the borrower. We want to make sure that they're not super excited to get into that wonderful home, and we want to make sure that it's safe and sound and habitable, as well as them being able to go on date night once in a while and not, miss their first mortgage payment. So
Yeah.
again, there's a lot to it, a lot more than I think people actually realize.
Yeah, no doubt. Would you say, because it sounds like you're trying to protect the investment as well as trying to protect the consumer, but you're not exactly a neutral third party, right? Like who is your loyalty to, I guess?
Actually, that is a great question. So our main role is to protect the company that we're working for, right? So we do have to protect that investment. But, I have to say, Annie, equally the borrower. We have a vested interest in all of our borrowers and want to make sure that they can perform, that we're not putting them in a position that's just going to create chaos for them down the road.
Right.
So,
Well, 'cause bank also, like it all kind of affects itself, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great point. Yeah, I didn't think of it that way, but you're exactly right? If that investment goes south, then the investor does suffer, but more importantly, the borrower, and we just don't want to see that happen.
Yeah. Well, do you think that sorry, I should have warned you that I send you questions beforehand, but I also become interested in the subject
You're
and ask
good.
other questions. Sorry
Good.
to put you on the
No.
spot. I guess, would you say that could be considered like a unique perspective to you and Guild? Like, I love Guild so much and the people that work there. Do you think that that's how most underwriters think about their roles? Because, so one of the questions I sent to you is, why are underwriters scary?
Yeah.
And I think from the consumer standpoint, it's like they're the ones that say yes or no. Like the
Yeah.
loan officer approve you, but at the end of the day, it's the underwriter, that is the one that can take the place away. So do you think that that is how most underwriters think about it, or how other companies, or is that unique to you and Guild?
You know, I can't speak to all companies. I've been fortunate to work for just a handful of companies that always had that unique loan officer, and so sales and ops actually really work together for the benefit of our borrowers. I was very choosy with the culture. It was extremely important to me. If and when I was ever going to change a position, it had to be with the right culture. So, it's amazing that we have that in our industry, and Guild is just fabulous. I mean, we definitely work hand in hand with our sales partners to make sure that we're solutioning files. And I'm not saying putting people in a bad position. That doesn't, solutioning a file means meeting investor guidelines, making sure that the borrower can pay their bills and go on date night and not have something catastrophic happen.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I've worked with other lenders before that the underwriter seems like this kind of distant person that, of
Right.
course, basements like on dark
Right.
computers. But,
Yeah.
like
You know,
whereas a lot of times during my deals, I'll be like, ask the underwriter how they want this written on here so that we can make it work, and
sure.
and that's so helpful because I'm like, we're just trying to make it happen for people.
Well, at the end of the day, what are we doing this for?
Right.
Right? We're not just reviewing a piece of paper. There is an actual family
Yep.
at the end of that transaction. So I think it's important that we all realize that. And again, just a great culture fit. That is first and foremost on our mind, that it's a family that we're helping at the end of the day. So,
Yeah. So
yeah.
I do want to talk about 2008, since you've been in the industry for a long
Okay.
time. I think that, again, from kind of an outsider perspective, not that I'm an outsider, but I wasn't a realtor in 2008, that the underwriting has changed dramatically since then. So can you talk a little bit about how your
Sure.
job changed, what that looks like? Because people have this vernacular of like boom and crash and bubbles and all these things.
Yeah.
And the reality is things have changed a lot. So I'd love to hear it from you.
So it is an interesting topic, actually. So I think back to 2008, I actually worked for two companies that went out of business at that time. And it was so unfortunate because they were really, really great companies. They just, they couldn't make it through that downturn. But during that time, we were underwriting files and approving borrowers that we had no idea how much income they made, right? We had no idea what their assets looked like. And we were approving loans that obviously history tells us now that shouldn't have been approved,
Yeah.
right? So the difference between then and now is we have some amazing programs, we do, but we are truly reviewing that borrower's income, their employment history, their assets, where's the down payment coming from, analyzing all of that information. And although there are amazing down payment assistance programs, and there are still our low down payment type of transactions, we're not being irresponsible in today's environment, and we really are analyzing the borrowers, just making sure that they qualify for the home that they're purchasing. Again, that's ultimately, as we stated earlier, the most important part of this transaction is the family that we're putting into that home, and we want to make sure that we don't impact them negatively in the future. So how it's changed for us is just making sure that we're up to speed on all of the different types of variable income, fixed hourly rate, projected income, just making sure that we understand the ins and outs of all of that, and that we can explain it to our sales partners, and so we all see it from the same perspective and approve borrowers or pre-approve them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Responsibly, and look at it the same way.
Yeah. So in 2008, and it might have been a little bit of both things here, but was it like the policies in place just weren't there to really verify income, or was it more that people were lying? Because that's what my tax guy is always like. People used to just lie on their tax returns and say, "Oh, I make 200,000 a year, 60 or whatever it was."
You know, so at that period of time, it was stated income, stated assets.
Mhm.
So it wasn't, I is who I can speak for. I've never actually called somebody a liar, right? That's not my vocabulary. But if it was on the application and it met the guideline,
Yeah.
that was policy,
Okay.
right? That's how we looked at loans at that time.
Got it.
And if it met that period of time's guidelines, then that's how we would proceed and approve the loan. And there were times, I think all of us actually in the industry were like, this just doesn't feel right. We see this could possibly turn into something that's bad, not as it's intended to be. Unfortunately, as history tells us, it did turn into something that wasn't so great for a lot of people. Yeah. In today's environment, though, we do more checks and balances. So if we get a tax return, when during COVID, there were a lot of delays on tax transcripts. So a lot of companies actually set that policy aside. But as we've gone further away from COVID, a lot of those policies are reinstated. So we are double checking a lot of that information just to ensure that what's being presented to us is actual information. So again, it's never that we're saying somebody's fibbing to us. It's just, as history taught us, we do have to do checks and balances just to make sure that that information is correct.
Well, and thank God for that. I mean, I always, the way that I always put it to people in regards to the real estate side of things is I go, once you close on that house, you'll have to I don't want any bad phone calls that you can't make you can't afford to buy a new furniture or whatever it is. So like me and my team are going to make sure that everything is good here, so we don't get that phone call. I want come have a cocktail on the porch, so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you want to feel good about what you've done for that family, right? Or for that individual, whomever it is that's purchasing that property.
Yeah,
right.
100%.
Yeah.
They want to still have date night. My favorite thing is selling a house to people, and people are always nervous about the finances, and then going through their Instagram and seeing them on vacation somewhere, and I'm like, yay, house and vacation. I love that.
Best of both worlds.
Best of both worlds, 100%.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you think that people should know, or any advice that you have to a consumer, or anything you want to add?
Advice to consumers, I think, is a good thing, actually. The most important thing once you apply for a mortgage loan, wait until after that loan funds to go out and buy that new furniture.
Yeah.
And it's so funny that everyone wants to take a vacation like the week that their close of escrow. Yeah. So we have to move the close of escrow up. Yeah. I don't know how that happens all the time, but it does. Happens a lot. But I think
somebody shows up in a new car and you're like, what is that?
Exactly. Please tell me that's mom and dad's car.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, purchasing anything large during, after you've made application is, I would say, the number one hair pulling. We all scramble to still try and make that work, because obviously we don't want to see anything go sideways, especially during the loan process. But if I could offer any advice, and pay your bills on time, right? A lot of companies, including Gale, does do a pre-close credit report that checks those inquiries, and if there's additional debt that's been incurred during the course of the transaction, we have to include it in the debt to income ratio. If you haven't made your payments, we see that as well. So just keep making those payments like you have, keep that good credit going, and don't go buy your house full of furnishings until after you fund that loan.
No new lines of credit.
Yes.
Yeah.
After you get the keys and you move in, you have my permission.
I always joke that I want to get like a tattoo somewhere up here that says no new lines of credit, please. So, like, remind people.
I'll get one with you.
They're like, how come all of your lenders and underwriters and title and real estate agents have neck tattoos that say no new lines of credit?
Because it's the number one hair pulling. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I think that's great advice to be reminded of again. So Yeah, unless you have anything else to add, I feel like it's informative and just what I was looking for.
Oh, awesome. The only thing I have to add to that is let's go back to underwriters being scary. So if I could say anything, underwriters hate to decline files. I mean, they truly do. It ruins their
Yeah.
days, right? I've seen underwriters in tears over having to do that. They love to see those photos of families moving in.
Yeah.
So as real estate agents, if you ever want to share that moment, right, look what you were a part of. I mean, it truly does make our day.
Oh,
Um, and I kid you not, it really bothers underwriters, especially on our team at Guild, to decline a file. So that doesn't happen very often. We typically find a solution, but when it does happen, I know it really just ruins their entire day. So that is a misconception, I can assure you.
I will stop spreading that narrative then.
Thank you.
Yeah, correct. I haven't had builds, not, and I'm going to knock on wood as I say it, but not once have we had a file thrown out or, not approved. And also Donna I asked her the other day, I was like, I think this is true, but she never once has even had me extend a deadline for anything. So Guild, I'm a big fan. You guys do great work.
Awesome.
Company culture is just awesome. So,
Well,
yeah.
thank you. Likewise. We certainly appreciate you and all that you do.
Thanks. Great. Well, thank you so much for joining me on here and figuring out the Instagram thing. And yeah,
Yeah,
it's great chatting with you.
you as well. I'm a pro now.
Yay.
Yay.
Exactly. All right.
Have a great evening.
You too.
Bye-bye.